Welcome, welcome, my noble thespians and my happy troupe of theater trolls. I'm your host, Dawn Westbrook, the biggest troll of them all, with my glass of Chardonnay. I hope you'll join me with a glass of something. And for the next few minutes, we're going to focus on the craft of acting, the art of directing, and embracing the process of this crazy career in the theater. I have some wonderful interviews lined up in the coming weeks, and this week is no exception. But first, this week's podcast is being brought to you by the Martha Hill Newell Playwrights Fund, whose commitment is to both local and national playwrights, and holds the belief that the relevance and vitality of American theater depends on the continual infusion of new works.
Are you Frank Brown?
Yes, I am.
How the fuck are you calling me? How are you calling me?
I don't know.
Did this happen during anybody else's show? Why is this happening during my show? Fuck you, Frank. That guy clearly has cocaine on. Doesn't he? He looks like a guy who has cocaine on. I was in the middle of my fucking fat jokes and everything. You can't join them. I guess there's this seat, but I really don't want you up close. There's a seat back there if you want. Shut up. The fuck kind of show is this? Everybody else got to do their jokes. I don't get to do my fucking jokes. If anybody wants to pull the fire alarm, I'm cool with that. I'll take the $20 and go home. This is a weird job. Anyway, who's this guy? What's happening here? Who the fuck is this guy? Where the fuck were you the whole time? Doing push-ups in the fucking hallway? Why? You've been gone for 20 minutes. Now you guys are clearly doing coke. I know for sure that's what's happening. Thanks for putting the cocaine guys right in the front.
Brian, oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Who knows anymore? I don't know anymore. Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday?
Oh my God. Okay, you said
you
Wednesday.
don't know either.
Okay, no, it's Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday the 13th. Yesterday was the 12th, right?
I've been in my apartment for 6 months.
Oh my God.
And I'm slowly losing my mind.
I know, but we're trying to do these things to try to stay up and over and try to get, some type of social interaction. Now, it is, I'm going to tell the listeners, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, 9 o'clock in the morning, your time. I'm on East Coast, you're on West Coast. Now, normally I have my little glass of Chardonnay when we record, but that's not happening today for a couple reasons. Number one, it's 12 o'clock in the morning. Number two, I had a migraine and had to take medicine, but I also topped it with a Tylenol, and I thought it was a regular, but it was a Tylenol PM. So I already feel like I've had 3 glasses, but I'm having coffee. Having coffee. What are you drinking?
Well, you asked me to drink something interesting, so I had water, and you were like, no, that's not good enough. So now I'm drinking because you're a maniac. That's why. So I'm drinking vodka mixed with lime-flavored bubbly.
Damn, you are good, and that's 9 in the morning. I didn't mean for you to go get something alcoholic. I just thought you were going to go get like a Gatorade, but since you've already worked out.
Now you tell me after I poured my vodka. You know how many interviews I have after this? I'm going to be sloshed because of you.
You know what? They'll probably go much, much better. There you go. How's that?
Well, yeah. And I'll start cursing people out. Let me know another thing about my mother.
Just don't talk about my mother.
We're safe.
So, Brian, you were recommended to me through a friend of mine who's a stand-up comic, Jeff Caldwell, who has always thought that you were one of the funniest guys he's ever seen. He also recommended me to you because I talk about acting. This is mostly directed towards the craft of acting, the art of directing, and just trying to embrace this process, which is always all over the fucking place, right?
Right.
So he recommended you, and I immediately got to work. I knew your name, and as soon as I heard you, I went, I know that voice. And I started looking at all your clips and everything, and I went, oh, of course I know his work. So I'm really honored, and I want to kind of focus on sitcom work. But
sure. Well, first of all, Jeff is a nice guy. Second of all, don't be honored because I'm a failure. And 3, you're making me drink vodka. Go ahead. What do you want?
It's truth serum. My husband's an anesthesiologist, so I'm going to get to those real answers towards the end as we work towards the last quarter hour. So yeah, no, I did. I looked at your clips, at your stand-up and your sitcoms, and I've actually seen you, not just on YouTube, I've seen you on TV, and I really enjoyed it. And also, too, you've written a new book called How to Punch a Monkey.
Yeah, which is not, it surprises me how many people really think the book's about punching monkeys. Like, how long could that be? You find a monkey, you punch him, and that's it. You know, and get out of there before the monkey retaliates. Really, three steps.
It's a 3-step process.
That's not what the book's about. It's like I always loved George Carlin, and he had great books. Brain Droppings, When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops? He had wonderful books, and it's in that style. There's rants and there's musings and there's one-liners and there's jokes and there's sketches and. You know.
It is. The sketches are great. Do you write for comedies as well? Do you?
What'd you say?
I enjoyed those the most. I'm an actress, and a director. I do a lot of theater, so I really enjoyed the sketches. Do you do a lot of writing out there in LA? Do you do sitcom writing? People bring you on to? I know they do that a lot with comedians.
No. It takes years to develop a career in Hollywood unless you happen to know somebody. So to be an actor is a lot of years of preparation and get known, and same thing for writing. So there are some people who do both, and they literally spent years at both. So I'm not involved into writing camps, but I do write. I have 10 screenplays. I have, like 5 sitcoms, a couple one-hour dramas. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but like Dan Aykroyd, when he made it on Saturday Night Live, he had all these scripts ready to go. Yeah. So when that happens, when I'm dead, somebody will find the scripts and pretend they wrote them, and they'll make a lot of money.
Right. Well, well, you know what? You'd be in good company. Mozart, a lot of these other famous people were dead before they were discovered. So, if it happens, you're in great company. I hope that doesn't happen. But I did read the book, and it was a stream of conscious. I didn't know what to expect when I bought it, because I said, do you have anything that you've got going on right now? No, there are no performances in, comedy clubs, and everything's on halted production. But you said, I just wrote a book. It came out in May. And I went, oh, well, let me buy it so I have something to talk about. I found myself, go ahead.
I'm just really flattered and thankful that you bought it. Thank you.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you too, anybody that's listening, I'm going to post it on the Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. So I recommend you can get it on Amazon. How to Punch a Monkey by Brian Scolaro. My husband said, are you sure he didn't want a different verb? And I went, well, now that I've read it, he probably did. But
I don't want to fuck a monkey. I don't want to fuck a monkey. I wouldn't mind if a monkey watched me fuck. Monkey.
Right. That's what he said. That's where his head went, And
he's taking too much anesthesia.
You know what he is? I think he's actually got a 24-hour shift starting at 1:00. So at some point, I expect. Oh God, it sucks. I expect him.
I'd hate to be that patient at hour 23. Can we get somebody else?
Yeah, always ask. You're exactly right. Always ask. How long? I'm fine with the surgery, but how long have you been on call? Always ask. He probably will come in and say goodbye and give me a kiss, and the dogs may come in and I'll, whatever. But just be. Okay. I have a sign that says "Do not disturb," but it doesn't matter.
That's how you spank a monkey, watching some of that action. Go ahead. I'm a comedian. Exactly don't forget that I'm a comedian. Okay.
No, I don't think anybody could ever forget that. First of all, I want to compliment you. I think you do a lot of self-deprecating humor, but I will tell you, just on my end, I find your voice very sexy.
Thank you.
I think you have a real sex appeal. And there was a part of me as I was reading this and I went, why is he cutting himself down?
Well, first of all, it's only like a few pages of the book. And in my act, it's only in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. But it tends to be the part that stays with people because everyone deep down inside thinks bad of themselves in some way. Right. So people tend to latch on to that because that's why I do it, because it's humanizing and it brings people in more when I'm talking and when I'm writing and when I'm talking. It brings people in because they feel that connection.
Sure.
And also, I noticed as a heavyset gentleman, if I don't mention I'm fat, somebody else will.
Oh.
Because people are fucking horrible. And so even when I wasn't fat, if I was standing up at a concert listening to music, somebody would say, "Somebody tell that fat guy to sit down." It's always the first thing. And I don't want to. And even when I'm losing weight, people still do it. And when I was on sitcoms, they would write fat jokes, and I wasn't even fat, but there was fat. I was like, all right, fine. One show I did, they kept saying I was fat and I wouldn't get laid. With the first episode, I had 10 children and 3 wives. And then suddenly they realized, hey, we can write fat jokes about him. So they made it like nobody ever fucked me ever. And meanwhile, the girl I was dating was 1,000 times prettier than all the writers' wives.
Right.
So I was like, what the fuck? They're telling America.
That was in your book.
Yeah, they're telling people fat people don't get laid. It's crazy to me.
No, it's ridiculous.
Of course we get laid. Look how many of us are out there. We're breeding.
They're breeding. They're breeding. No, I have always liked big bear of a guy. Now, when my husband comes in, you're going to be shocked. He is the antithesis of what I know. I like a big bear hug. I like a guy that's bigger. I always did. My first husband was very similar, kind of more like Mike, like you. This guy is a skinny. When I was pregnant, I weighed more than him, and I hated that. I said, "This has to go.
Right, sure.
The baby's got to go because I don't want me weighing more than you."
Yeah.
But anyway, no. So you talk about let's just get it out of the way.
Okay.
Two of my guests have said that. Brett Leake, who is a really good friend of mine, who's a comedian and listener, he's got muscular dystrophy. He was on Jerry Lewis. He actually has this contraption now where he can't walk on his own, but it stands him up and moves him over. And he says to kids, they go, I know people always want to know what's wrong and da-da-da. And he says, actually, I'm a transformer.
That's funny.
So kids love that.
Yeah,
and he does. He actually raises up and moves in. It looks like he's changing. But I hope to have him on. He's really good friends with Jeff Caldwell.
Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah, I like that idea.
Just, get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. And my friend Brad Greenquist, who I had on 2 weeks ago, is out there in LA. He has a studio in Santa Monica and does a ton of TV and film. And he says, when he's working with celebrities, and I'll ask you this too, when you first started in the business. Now you're kind of one of those people where if you were on set, people would go, "Oh, there's Brian. I want to get this out of the way and just say hi and I like your work or whatever." But he says he worked with George C. Scott and Jack Lemmon in Inherit the Wind. And I said, "What the fuck? How do you get away from being?" When you're out in LA, the names, the faces of not being nervous. Now, I have worked on film sets as well. How do you, who would you say is the biggest name you've worked with?
Well, I worked with Christopher Lloyd and Pamela Anderson for 2 years.
On Stacked?
Yeah, I worked with Kathy Bates, Face to Face on Harry's Law. William H. Macy, I worked with on Shameless. There's been so many. Sometimes it's what you consider big. Like I worked with Gary Marshall and Diane Cannon.
Oh my God, Gary Marshall.
So it's I've been around. They all blend together after a while.
They
I
do.
would probably say the one that excites people the most is.
Can you say his name again? Your voice went out. Who are you?
Christopher Lloyd from Taxi and Back to the Future and Addams Family.
I think most of us know who he is. So how did you?
Sure.
Yeah, so no, you're good. Your voice went out, so I want to make sure we said his name nice and clear.
Right.
So he was probably the most fun. Were you kind of a little bit in awe? Were you a little bit, this is the coolest? What did you say to him when you were
It's different when you meet them as peers. Mm-hmm. It's less nerve-wracking. Bumping into somebody on the street or at an audition is nerve-wracking.
Sure.
But meeting them on the same show you're both hired to be on is not nerve-wracking.
You're right. I worked with Hilary Swank and Patrick Dempsey. We did a movie called Iron Jawed Angels. It was filmed here in Richmond, Virginia. It was filmed for HBO. And we went to the table read, and somehow my ass ended up sitting next to Patrick Dempsey. Holy crap. Dr. McLove or Dr. McDream, whichever one he was on Grey's Anatomy. And, I thought he never really did much for me. I thought he was good looking. And I was a little older. He's pretty, but I thought I've got friends that would freak out if they knew that I was sitting beside him. So I told him, I said, I got friends that would just be freaking out if they could sit right here. I said, I am too, kind of, but you're really, you are good looking and you do a great job. So, but you do theater with my friend in New York. We'll talk about that when we're done. Yeah. So,
I rode a golf cart with him and he was very nice on the golf cart, and the funny, because when I did Grey's Anatomy, my ex-girlfriend who broke my heart was a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. And then when I finally got on the show, I was like, all right, now she'll take this. And it turns out, I stopped watching that show years ago. Yeah, fuck you, Julia.
Oh, that's so funny. Did you get pictures and show her and go, screw you.
Yeah, she could care less.
So now, Bay Ridge, you grew up there. So you haven't lost the New York, honey. You haven't lost it, even being out in the West Coast. You don't have a lot of likes and stuff. But when did you move and why did you move from New York to LA? What took you as an actor?
I'm from an older time when people could get hired from New York to perform in LA.
I know.
So in other words, I'd done 3 Wendy's commercials and a Sidney Lumet show that nobody remembers. And then I got cast in a pilot. I had to fly. I read for the pilot in New York in the embassy season. Yeah, at 30 Rock Plaza. I read for the pilot, and then they flew me out to test. Back when they did that, they don't do that anymore. So they flew me out to test. I got the part. I went back home. I flew back out for the pilot. The pilot didn't get picked up. It had Tiffany Amber Thiessen. It was a funny pilot written by the guy who did who wrote on Seinfeld and Saturday Night Live.
Right.
But what happened was a writer on that pilot, a writer who was helping,
Mm-hmm.
was working on another show called Three Sisters on NBC. It was on before Frasier.
Right.
So this guy suggested me to the executive producers. I flew out for a meeting. They met me. The meeting did not go well because I'm bad. I'm bad at meetings. And I said, listen, if you write me a scene, I'll show you what I can do. But I know this meeting is not going well.
What makes you bad? I'm going to stop you. What makes you bad at meetings?
People, the same way, if I hit on a girl,
Uh-huh.
I would say 3 out of 10 will say yes. And really 1 out of 10 likes me. But the other 2 just kind of don't know what to say.
Okay.
They say yes. So if I'm sitting across from people, a lot of times they'll look at my visual and they won't see what lies beneath it. Just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can act, I can show them what lies beneath it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way a lot of people get hired on the way they look, and then when you see them on TV, they're kind of wooden, like, and you're like, well, they got the part because of the way they look, or they got the part, So
that's really, really, really an LA, more of an LA thing than it is a New York thing. Really?
I got laid more in LA. I got laid more than LA than New York. So
I'm not saying.
What I'm saying is, image matters most. Like, there's a great joke by Jim Jeffries. The secret to happy. You want to know what the secret to happiness is? Be good looking.
Right.
So I went back home. And then they wrote me a scene. I went to 30 Rock. I shot the scene with the casting director, and then I got the part. And they gave me 2 weeks to move, and they said, we're giving you $5,000 to move. So they gave me like 2 days to move. So literally, I had to pack up everything I owned and move. And I stayed in a hotel.
2 days to move.
2 days.
And how much? And you went out again. How much a week? 5,000?
No, it was $5,000 to move. Lived in a hotel for 3 weeks. Spent the $5,000. The hotel was very concerned because they were like, "Are you going to pay?" I was like, "I'll pay. I promise I'll pay." And then I moved out, and I stayed in LA, and I was going to move back home, but then they always say the 3 things that matter in Hollywood are either looks, heat, or momentum, and I had momentum, so I went from a pilot to an NBC sitcom. So when the sitcom got canceled, I immediately went to another pilot.
And that's stacked. The stacked is the same.
No. The first pilot was called Everything But the Girl with Tiffany Amber Thiessen. This was for NBC. Then there was the show Three Sisters on NBC for 2 years.
Okay.
And I did an ABC pilot with Tom Everett Scott and AJ Langer called Platonically Incorrect.
Right.
And that they didn't pick it up. Well, we shot other episodes, so they didn't let us go. Then there was a CBS holding deal, and then there was Stacked on Fox. So I had great momentum, and what killed it was the writer's strike. The writer's strike was immediately followed by the economy collapse. Mm-hmm. So for 3 years, there was very little work, and I lost my momentum. And then I got fat. So I can't blame it all on the writer's strike, but I can say it was probably 50-50 between those two.
Let me ask you a question, since you brought up fat again. I have some friends in the business. Well, Kathy Bates. You brought her up. She's a hefty woman, right?
Yeah,
she's got a certain look.
She won an Oscar. That's different.
But what I'm going to talk about is she did Crimes of the Heart on Broadway, right? She'd never been out to LA. She wanted to do movies and TV and film. She did Crimes of the Heart. She originated the role. I think she won a Tony for it. Decided, they picked it up. Beth Henley's play, picked it up. They were going to write a screenplay, going to film it. She went, well, I want to do it. I want to do it. She went out. Well, hell, she didn't get it. Thank you, Meryl Streep and all the other Diane Cannon, all the other people that got it, right? Holly Hunter, I can't remember who else, but she didn't get it. And it's because she didn't have the LA look, which is just sucks,
I don't want to call it an LA look. I live here in LA. I'm from New York. I can honestly tell you it's not an LA thing. It's because people who are watching the shows with good-looking people, they're to blame, not LA. Okay. If they would watch the show, Everybody Loves Raymond comes around, and it's great because we got regular-looking people on it. The whole cast.
And it's also really funny. I think he's one of the funniest people in the world.
All it takes is for people to watch those shows and not shows with just good-looking people standing still and talking. Mm-hmm. But, that's really what it comes down to. And other things have changed, too. Like, everyone got shoved down a level. So the writer's strike, if you were directing movies, suddenly you were directing straight to DVD movies.
Right, sure.
And if you were a lead on a sitcom, suddenly you were a guest role on a sitcom, which is what happened to me. And guest roles, you can't live on them. You just can't live on them.
No, you can't. And you go from paycheck to paycheck and you're not, you know. Yeah. Now, you told me something in our pre-phone call, which I really appreciate you taking because I know you're a busy man.
Sure.
You said, I said, so stand up acting. You know, acting. You said, yes, acting, stand up. You said you do stand up because you got a manager and an agent, but acting is your love. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. As a director and as an actor, I could tell when I watched your clips, there's a difference. There's kind of I don't know, you are so comfortable falling into a character and you're so real and so relaxed and it's smooth, right? But when stand-up is, the audience is the other character and you have to feed off of them and there's kind of an unnerving, I don't know how you guys do it personally.
I hate it. It's fun at times. It's fun when the audience is great. When the audience
oh God, yeah.
And like, I don't even care if they laugh anymore. I just want them to shut up. Like somebody says, what do you prefer, acting or stand-up? I go, well, there's no bachelorette party on the set of Mad Men heckling me. You know what I mean? So I'll go with acting. But there's another reason I like acting more.
Okay.
Is because it's zen. If you are truly in the moment and you are truly that character, then it doesn't matter that your mother is sick. It doesn't matter that your dog died. It doesn't matter that your girlfriend left you. You're not thinking about that because you're thinking about this character. So if you're truly in the moment, it's zen. Right. Which is another reason I love it.
Well, you know what? Yeah, you can you hear my dog scratching at the door?
No.
Okay, I'm going to let the dog in. My husband's going to come in and he'll put him in the cage. You get to see my little fuzzy face. Hold on. Sorry.
And I'm just going to keep talking.
Oh, my God.
So I like spaghetti. My favorite is spaghetti. Somebody once tried to get me to take chickpea flavored chickpea spaghetti. And it was good for a while, but I noticed that it makes me feel bloated afterwards. So I like regular spaghetti. I've gone back to it. And I find the more I try to lose weight, the more weight I gain. All I really got to do is exercise. The point is, spaghetti is great.
My mic is right here, and I don't know if you heard it or not, but she was just going, karink, karink, karink.
No. I just talked about spaghetti for 2 minutes.
Well, I got up, so I might be able to use it and I'd edit it out. Thank you for that commercial. Thank you for that commercial on spaghetti. So, you talk about size. Now, I just got finished watching a show. I did a binge watch, which is what everybody's doing with coronavirus now. I just finished watching, and I'm so pissed that they left me hanging because everything stopped production, right? Coronavirus.
I haven't watched Billions yet.
Do you know why? Do you know why I'm bringing it up?
Why?
We're talking about weight and not necessarily like. And you're much better looking than he is. Sorry, Paul, but Paul Giamatti.
He's Paul Giamatti. There's a difference. It's a difference. It's Paul Giamatti got the part on the Howard Stern movie Private Parts, and that's kind of what made him. So then suddenly he started appearing in independent movies, and that all is fine. But like, can I back you up a second? What movie did you say he got? Because it was the one with the was it Sideways? The movie? The movie that put him on the map, not necessarily a household name, was Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie. He played the bad guy. So he was the second lead of the movie. And he had to be an ugly guy. So he lucked out that way. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's one of my favorite actors. I love John Adams, the HBO series, which is on Amazon.
Filmed it here. They filmed it here in Virginia.
Yeah,
I didn't get cast. My teeth are too bleached white.
They could have put shit on them.
Yeah, I know, but they don't.
Like,
they're short.
I don't. When people point out examples saying, "What about this guy? What about this guy?" Like, yeah, of course, there's 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of. If I get a part now, if I get an audition, the audition will say heavy set. Now, why does it say heavy set? Because in the script, they have a joke about him being fat. Somebody calls him fat. Now, if there's no joke about him being fat, the casting directors won't see a fat guy. Okay. That's the fucking problem.
Well, Brad Greenquist said last week, he said, I'm going to say something and I'm going to shoot it out there and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this. He said, the casting directors, they have no idea what we do or what we're capable of. He says they don't know what we do. He has a studio in Santa Monica.
I'm not a brilliant. There's a casting director named Wendy O'Brien and Julie Ashton. These are wonderful casting directors and they can see past things. But there's a lot of ones who can't.
Well, go ahead. I took a class last night with Erica Arvold, who is here in Charlottesville. Dave Matthews. Oh my God, so great. She lives in Charlottesville and Scottsville. where Dave Matthews is. And Sissy Spacek, they all have land out in that horse land. It's so gorgeous out there. So you've been to Charlottesville?
Charlottesville? No.
No, okay. But anyway, so the reason I brought up Paul Giamatti, I want to get off the fat thing because you are so much more than that. Yeah, you haven't watched it, but if you haven't watched it, you have to see it because he's into S&M. Do you know the premise? He's into what? He's not a dork. He's into S&M.
Who is?
Sadomasochism. Paul Giamatti in Billions.
Oh, okay.
So they have him in all this garb, and he looks like this teddy bear. You know, you take Teddy Ruxpin and you put him in leather and chains and whips. It just doesn't look right. But anyway, they obviously went against typecasting because there's nothing in the script that says he looks like what he looks like.
Yeah, but he's Paul Giamatti. He's Paul Giamatti. He's famous. That's why. It doesn't matter. Once you're famous, it doesn't matter.
Right.
That's the whole point. So the point is that there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of heavyset actors in every city, and they're only allowed to play judges or gym coaches or one-liners, and usually half the time they're being made fun of. That's the fucking problem. Okay. And it's the same thing that black actors go through. They're always reading, they're not black enough. They got to be this. Same thing, you got to be, you're not foreign enough. If you're Arab, you got to have an Arab accent. It's the same thing they go through. Right. And so I'm not saying, I'm just like, yes, we can point to examples where there's celebrities. Right. But they're celebrities, that makes it all different. But anyway, I love acting. We go back to acting.
Celebrity, when did you know that you knew you liked it? Was it like everybody else, high school, or did you?
Well, it was much earlier for me. I find that most people don't know what they want to do with their life, except for people who are artists. Artists know what they want to do early on.
Agreed.
In first grade, my father showed us the Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy, and I discovered Tim Conway through the Carol Burnett show. Oh yeah. I loved John Candy. As I grew older, John Candy and John Belushi had certain realistic performances I really loved. Yes. And so I started to develop that. When I was in sixth grade, I played the lead of a school play, and then in seventh grade, I played the lead. And then in eighth grade, they offered me the second lead, who was supposed to be blind. So they wanted me to play blind. But I was such a kid, I was like, fuck that, I'm the lead. And so I quit. So we're talking like sixth grade, seventh grade, I was already on stage memorizing an hour, 2 hours a day.
Now, I got to ask a question. Okay, sixth, seventh grade, now you were in New York, right? At the time in Bay Ridge. So are these like little scripts, like you played the tree or you played the boy? I mean, what were they?
Like 2 hour play. It was like 2 hour play.
Really? Yeah. Well, I guess when you're in New York, your elementary and middle schools do things like that. In mine, not so much, but you were lucky to be an angel in the nativity. Go ahead.
That's why I think younger kids, like once you get into like fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, the plays get a little bigger. Yeah. So there were kids in it, and they came out and sang a song, and they left, and everybody clapped, and then back to Brian. It's very funny because I watched one play. I went up on stage, and the girls in the crowd went, "Yay!" And you could see me get freaked out and run back off stage. So I was supposed to, but I didn't even bow. I was like, "Hey!" I was like, "Oh!" Like it was never about fame for me. I used to work with mentally handicapped people, and there is a type of retardation called Fragile X, and it's their X chromosome is damaged, and their trait is they want the spotlight, and once they get it, they recoil, and sometimes violently. Yes. Sometimes. And so I think I have that because I like attention, and when I get it, I get freaked out.
Yeah. Interesting. I would say that you probably don't really. You might have. I don't know.
In high school, I was I was in No Time for Sergeants, and then in the second season, sophomore year, I was in Room Service, which is the play, which is a movie Marx Brothers did. So I got cast in the Chico character, and
sure you did.
I think that's the moment that I became an actor because there's this moment where we have to eat a dinner in 2 minutes. And the director, Mrs. Simkoviak, who I wrote to, and she doesn't realize what she did for me. Aww. She didn't know how to handle the compliment. I was like, "Hey, if it wasn't for you," she said to me, she said, ad lib. So I started that. I was breaking the loaf of bread over my head. I was drinking water while speaking, so water was flying everywhere. I ate an apple in 5 seconds, an entire apple, and the crowd. These are like kids and parents and teachers all laughing hard, holding their sides.
Oh, absolutely.
And at that moment is the moment I knew I could do it for real.
Yes.
So that's all. So sitcoms, multi-camera sitcoms, are very similar to theater, what you do.
Right.
And I think that's why I love it so much, because of all the theater I did as a kid.
Right. Multi-camera sitcom. I don't know. This is a question. You've done some police dramas and things like that.
Yeah.
And all that jargon. Do they do multi-camera too? Not so much.
Well, the hour-long dramas?
They do?
No, the hour-long dramas is a single camera.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it takes 2 weeks instead of 1 week.
Yep.
A lot of turning the set around. Like you do a line, and then you go back to your trailer for an hour, and then they turn the camera around. And they're like, all right.
Right.
So it's rough for the crew.
Yeah, no, multi-camera sitcom would be, because you said it is. It rolls more like theater, and you're doing it sometimes in front of a live audience. And that makes it even better because a lot of us feed off of laughs, like you said you learned when you were a sophomore in high school.
And working on the Pam Anderson show was great because Pam Anderson really wanted to drop her kids off at school and pick her kids up after school. So our workday was literally from 10 a.m. to 2.
Oh my God, what a dream job.
It was, and I was getting $32,000 an episode, and I was getting big laughs, and hot girls wanted to date me. It was a really good life.
That was a really good life. And when that was in what year?
2005 to 2006. It was 2 seasons. Available on Hulu right now.
It is. And, I saw that.
And so it was a lot of fun. It wasn't a lot of people didn't watch it because they thought it was going to be about tits because it's called Stacked.
Right.
People who wanted dumb humor didn't like it because it wasn't dumb humor. And the people who thought it was going to be dumb humor didn't watch it because they thought it was going to be dumb humor.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
But it's a bookstore.
It's a bookstore. But it was the reverse Cheers. So it was smart people with a dumb person moving in as opposed to Shelley Long being a smart person moving into a bar full of dumb people.
You posted something the other day where you said, this is one of my favorite scenes. And it was a gal, and you even from the live audience, I don't think it was bumped in, but they went, oh, that was 3 sisters, so sweet.
Those women, Eileen Heisler and Deanne Helene, were writers on Ellen, the original Ellen sitcom, Roseanne, Murphy Brown, and they did 3 Sisters. Now they are winning awards for the middle. They created the middle.
Yes.
So they did 3 Sisters, which got canceled because we had the sitcom Emerald as a lead-in. And we died. We died horrible.
So interesting how that works,
It was the only part I've ever played that was a real person. So one episode I was nervous, one episode I was confident, one episode I was jealous, one episode I was funny, one episode I was angry, and I got to play a real person. Right. And they did not look at my, not to say it again, but they did not look at my 6 out of 10 handsome qualities. They looked at my body and said, he's a real person. Let's write him as a real person, a regular guy.
Right.
And so that scene is that I got to play this great scene. And AJ Langer, I was a fan of from My So-Called Life. And I played her boyfriend, which is what was funny, is that she was a shallow girl dating a regular looking guy.
Right.
And that's and all the problems that could happen with that, which is what was fun. And it was really in-depth writing. And so on our first date, she kept ruining my plans by being spontaneous. Let's get a Christmas tree. Eventually, what I did was I set up a dinner for her, and I made, you got to come to work on Christmas Eve. And she was pissed, and she walks in, sees the dinner, and it's this great line where I think it's a line where I really became an actor because I was like, how do I do this line the right way? So I'm pouring her a glass of wine, and I say, see, it's spontaneous for you. It's planned for me. It's spontaneous for you. And I poured glasses of wine on each line. And that's where I started to realize it's not about saying the jokes. It's about, about acting. It's about finding moments to make the dumb line seem real, to make the joke real and not a joke, and to make it sweet and how to stop a line. But the first 3 episodes, I was saying jokes all the way through. And then I realized I could stop the joke 3 times and get 3 laughs out of it. If the line is like, oh, now I understand, I can go, oh, get a laugh there,
Now I understand. Get a second laugh. Instead of
I gotcha.
So that happened on that scene, and also it was just nice to. I never got that kind of part ever again,
Right.
because character actors always have to play the same note.
I know.
And on Stacked, the show of Pam Anderson, I pretty much just played a horny guy. You know,
You do that one where she can't hear you. It's that loud thing. And
I know. I love that.
Oh my God, you are so freak. I'm gonna post that on the YouTube. It is so funny. I'm not gonna tell you what he says or how he says it. You have to watch. It's almost like patting your stomach and rubbing your head at the same time. What he does is unbelievable, and it comes off beautifully.
But thank you. But you know what's funny about that is that if we like talking about the craft of acting, this is a perfect example, because I believe in adding. And the reason that writers on sitcoms always usually like me, except for one show, they usually like me is because I add to what they're writing. I don't change the words, but I add to it. So in that scene, there's a guy playing a guitar next door, and there's Alon Gold and Pam Anderson. And Pam's like, it's so loud, I can't hear anything. And Alon goes, you're like, why? Well, you think somebody could do something? She's like, I can't hear what you're saying. So my line is, I would cut off my own foot to see you naked. And so, which is funny, but I added, what if I'm trying to confuse her by making phone motions and making car driving motions? So I'm like, I would cut off my own foot to see you naked. And the writers went berserk.
Yeah, well, you know what happened? You know why they wanted you? You made them look better. You made it look
That's
better.
the whole idea.
Absolutely.
That's the whole idea.
It's the whole idea. Make the director, make the other actors, make, everybody, look better. Of course they did.
So if you're not there to fucking nail it, then don't go.
Right. It was, I love that. Talk to me about, all right, so you get an audition. All right. Yeah. Now, you're probably one of those that gets the call and says, hey, they want you for this, or they just need to see you read, or what is that? I know things are different now.
It seems to be because of right now, the types of parts I play mostly go to minorities. The less I work. One of the, and I'm happy for them, but one of the negative side effects is I lose work. So
interesting.
What I'm saying is there's the handsome guy, and then there's the best friend.
Sure.
The best friend character, which I used to play, now goes to minorities. See what I'm saying?
I understand totally.
Yeah.
I just thought being, in the category that you've put yourself in, that you kind of think of yourself as a minority. We all kind of are trying to do our best and figuring out, the Broadway Advocacy Coalition and Dear White American Theater, hashtag We See You. I don't know if you read that. There's a lot. We have a local one here, the Conciliation Project. And it merged two theaters together, an African-American theater and Theater Lab. And there are a lot of people trying to figure out how things are going to look going forward. I'm not a visionary. I really can't see it. I can't really figure out how it's going to be.
I want it to be good. That's all I care about. So anyway, the point I was trying to make is that since I've reached this level now where there's less work, what I do get is mostly offers, and I don't get them a lot. Like, I do a show called A Million Little Things on ABC. I've done it twice because the guy knew of me and offered me. No, I had to audition for it, actually.
Okay.
Self-tape,
or do you, since you're in LA?
I was in Montreal. I had the self-tape. And then when I got to the set, he goes, I've known you a long time. You and another guy were good, but it was to the friend. I said, okay, good. So I got that part. So that was kind of an offer. And I sometimes, Shameless wasn't an offer. Mad Men wasn't an offer, but Alone Together on Freeform Channel was an offer. So it happens once in a while. It's much better. I prefer it.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I remember sitting in audition and Fred Willard is auditioning, and I'm like, why is Fred Willard auditioning? You know what he's gonna do. Why are you making this poor man take a shower, memorize 14 pages, get in the car, drive, making him sit there? Why are you doing that? If you want Fred Willard, hire Fred Willard.
You know what? You're right, because he was such a type, and God, was he brilliant. Rest in peace. He was so wonderful. And you know what? That says something about him and his process. He never got to the point where he said, no, I'm offer only. You can either, I will absolutely. That's very gentlemanly and very lovely thing, actually. Yeah, it's about the work and that he wanted to do it. Yeah. Okay. Quick question. I wanted to talk, you have to self-tape, but I want to ask you real quick. Do you have a favorite sitcom on TV right now that you watch? I do.
What's yours?
Well, it was Schitt's Creek. Jesus
Oh yeah,
Christ, that's
yeah.
some
I guess
funny
that's
stuff.
officially a sitcom. Yeah, I often think of sitcoms as multi-camera, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, it was, but Will and Grace.
I like Schitt's Creek a lot. I didn't love season 3 that much, but what I love is I know Rizwan, who plays the real estate broker.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that I hired him, and and I love that that's challenging. What they're doing is challenging, but not throwing it in our face that it's challenging.
Yep.
Like with all the homosexual relationships. But my favorite moment of that sitcom is at the end of season 2, when they go out they're finally accepting their place in this world, and they go to meet dinner with 2 friends and hoping it'll get them back into society. And the 2 friends are rude to the waiter, rude about the restaurant.
Yeah.
And Christopher Elliott shows up with his wife, and they're making fun of the town, Schitt's Creek, the bad guys. And there's great performance by Eugene Levy.
Oh.
It's great performance that he never gets to do.
Right.
That's what I love about the show. Like when I was talking about Three Sisters, I got to do that scene.
Yes.
I never got to do it. Eugene Levy never gets to do stuff like this. And he says, no, you're wrong. He goes, he's the mayor of that town. And when I needed a van, he loans it to us. When I need help, they're there for us. You, not one nickel. And it's a great scene.
You know what? You're right.
He takes ownership of the town. He goes, this is where I live now. And it's great. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
My hairs are standing up on edge.
Yeah, you know what? You did it really well too. I do remember that scene, and I do, but with Eugene Levy, you can always, during that whole series, you could always kind of feel a sense of like, oh, kind of a little bit of hurt, but yet he'd be able to rise above, and he did. I loved the transformation of all of the characters. It was so well-rounded, and it was so great. But I will tell you, you said season 3. I started watching it with my husband. We watched one episode, and we both looked at each other like,
it's still good. It's still good.
No, we looked at each other and went, I'm not liking this. It's not funny. And my friend, 2 of my friends called me and went, no, you have to give it another chance. Get through the first 3 episodes, 4, and then it gets on a roll. And I love Grace and Frankie too. I love comedies that have heart to them, that really get you. You're laughing, and then they just punch you just a little bit. Not harsh.
That's why The Simpsons are great, because The Simpsons will do 19 minutes of silly comedy, and the last minute they'll throw in some heart, and and it changes everything.
Speaking of which, do you do voices?
I do. I read for voiceovers all the time, just like the rest of the world. They're basically hiring their friends because everyone's doing badly. But I did 2 video games. There was a show called Life and Times of Tim on HBO, which was a cartoon. And it was very realistic, and it took place in New York. So the creator, Steve Dildarian, heard my voice, and he hired me to play a mugger. And ever since then, he's had me on a lot. Now that show's no longer on, but he has a new show coming out, and he's already had me in for it. So it's very rare when somebody hires you again. Like they always say, we loved you. And I believe at the time they do.
Right,
but
sure.
Then life gets in the way. But this guy remembers me, and it's been fucking 10 years, and he brought me back. And I'm like, thanks, buddy. I do voiceovers, not all the time, but a couple of times a year.
Well, my friend Michael Mastra, who's a big Broadway actor and lives in New York, he died, man, but Warren Light directed that, and he directs all the Law and Order, SVUs, and he is just unbelievable. And he directed Sideman, and he will lots of times keep loyalty. He said he's one of the most loyal people. He said, once he started doing that, all of us had bit parts, and now he plays Judge Trani or something. I don't remember who he plays, but he's got a reoccurring role. So he is one of those that does kind of, keep.
Some guys do it. Like I know John DiMaggio, who does the voice for Bender on Futurama. If you look at his IMDb page, he's done like 100 things this year. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
It's the longest IMDb page I've ever seen.
Yeah, and for this year, that's kind of crazy because everything stopped production.
Well, I was exaggerating. I meant last year, but yes.
Okay, well, I was taking it literally. Sorry.
I got you. You're the one who's making me drink at 9 a.m.
Well, you know what? Excuse me, while we're talking, I need to sip my coffee here. Well, I'd have done this at 7, but you said you go to bed at 7. I've never known a comedian to go to bed at 7 in my life.
I'm not a comedian right now. I'm an old man watching TV. 7 o'clock comes, I start getting tired. But here's the reason. I'll tell you the real reason. Okay, tell me the reason. I'm trying to lose weight, and I exercise at 6 a.m., and nobody in my neighborhood is, not nobody, I would say 70% of people are wearing masks 30% aren't.
Okay.
So if I walk on the streets to lose weight, if I walk uphill and somebody's coming at me without a mask, I have to then walk in the street and almost get hit by a car.
Yeah.
So I find 6 to 8 a.m. there's less people on the street. So I wake up early to exercise. Because once 9 a.m. hits, the place it's just no social distancing at all.
You're being very smart because you've mentioned a couple of things, but anybody with any comorbidities, such as if they're a smoker or if they're a little overweight or if they have high blood pressure, anything, you're more susceptible to getting it and not really recuperating as quick, or it could be fatal. You know,
a friend of mine, a guy who was a stand-in on the Pamela Anderson sitcom, died of COVID last week in LA.
Oh my goodness!
So he was a stand-in, so you won't know his name.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, I thought you meant it was a guest.
So people, and I also when the numbers went before the studies came, before people knew how to treat it, I lost a total of 23 people in New York.
Jeez,
so I tend to take it very seriously.
Yeah, it is. It's not. Yeah, it's not that we have to be really, really careful, and hopefully they will come up with a vaccine in maybe the beginning of the year at the least.
You don't want to wear a mask, that's fine, but don't come right at me full speed. You know
absolutely. What I mean? My husband's a doctor, and he's got people touching people, and he's like, "Get the fuck off me! Don't touch me!" Or go into a room and he doesn't shake. Never shakes patients' hands, and he says, "When I check their listening to their heart, turn your head." I'm like, oh my God, you're so rude. I watched him one day. He went, no, I don't want them breathing on me. And this is way before COVID. Yeah. So, you don't touch any skin or all that. But anyway, so let me ask you another question. So you get the role. You seem to me to be someone who would get the script and go, I'm not really going to think about it. I'll look at the lines, I'll get familiar with them, and then I'm just going to see what happens and what happens.
It depends. It depends. Like a part, if the part is close to me, and I just have to change an emotion, then I will wait. I will, first of all, for the audition, I like to be off book.
I was going to say, are you a quick study? Because these things, TV comes off quick. I mean, it's quick. We need this by 5 o'clock today on camera. Send it,
So it's one or the other. Either it's a cold read and my natural instincts as an actor will kick in and make it interesting, or it's a overly prepared off book memorization. There's a great story about a taxi driver.
Okay.
And Robert De Niro wanted to meet her at a diner every day for every morning for an hour for a month before the movie started.
Okay.
And Jodie Foster's mother would take Jodie Foster there, and Robert De Niro would just futz around with coffee and toast. And then eventually one day they started reading the script. And then the next day they read the script. And the next day they read the script. And then Jodie Foster said to her mother, I don't want to go anymore. All we do is read the script. It's boring. So then when they got to shooting, De Niro would change it, would move a line towards the end, would move something up earlier. He would scream when he wasn't supposed to scream. So you can only go with that if you're off book. If you know the scene so well that you can stay in the scene while the scene's changing, the dynamics are changing during the scene.
Right.
You can only do that if you're off book. So if I go into an audition and they say, can you do it like this? Can you do it like this? I was on an audition once, and it was in a trailer, and some other actor opens the door and walks in thinking it's the bathroom during my audition. You know what I mean? So it's like anything can happen, and I've had horror stories. So anything can happen, and you have to be, I believe, off book is the best.
What did you say? Did you say anything? I mean, you're a comedian. Did you look over there and say anything, or acknowledge it or not?
I got pissed, if I remember correctly. I went, oh, come on. And I just put my head down. Because they fucked up everything.
You should have just said, I told you to wait outside.
Yeah. But I should have been in a charming. This was 15 years ago.
Right. So charming. Do you consider yourself charming? Yes, no?
There's some girls who would say yes, and some girls who would say absolutely not.
I was talking about the casting people behind the table. Are you charming to them or you're not charming? That's so funny. You get that. So sometimes then, yes, you do prepare. Like you said, I love that story about everybody's got their own process. Michael Mastro, week 2, worked with Al Pacino on Paterno, and he was talking about how it would work on the set. He actually, because people were really going to watch and be riveted at his performance to see if he really was going to embody Paterno. Yeah. And he said he did. He said when they weren't shooting, he had a video, he had a phone, and he would just watch videos, and he'd try to kind of get the walk back and get the voice back. And
that's why it depends on the part. Like if the part is something close to me, I don't over prepare. If the part is something where I actually have to take on characteristics that are not part of me, like physical characteristics, then I need to prep a little more. And when it comes to comedy, you have to prep. You got to know where the fucking jokes are.
Absolutely.
Because the jokes that's why drama is so much more fun now that I'm older, because comedy has to be done a certain way and drama does not. There's a great quote: comedy, the action's on the line; drama, the action's in between the lines. And it's much more freeing to find other things to do.
So maybe now you would take that blind role.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade.
I know. I brought it back. Though, see how I did that? No, yeah. I would think, because now you're saying that, that kind of thing is interesting as well. And it's not just about, there are no small parts, only small actors. And maybe now you would be the part that you would do that. Let's talk about something that I bought your book. And when I knew you were going to be on, like we talked about that, there were other things that I ran into in getting some information about you and doing my research.
Right.
I looked at your website and you have a Patreon. Can you talk about that? Because I want to encourage people to take a look at this and, help Brian out if you can, and tell us about what it is.
Well, I don't want money for nothing.
Right.
So I'm doing I have multiple sclerosis. And I need to pay those medical bills. And in fact, SAG just raised the minimum $25,000. You have to make $25,000 a year to qualify for health insurance.
They raised it during the COVID year?
Today, raised it today.
Oh, Jesus.
So it went from 16 grand to 25,000. So what I have to do is, not only do I have to replace my road income, the money I made while performing on the road, I also have to replace my acting income, and I also have to replace my medical insurance. So all these things. So I was like, you know what? These clubs are opening, but they're not safe. The clubs in Florida that are opening aren't safe.
Right.
So I'm like, I need to protect myself. So I'm like, I'm thinking ahead. And the amount of people I need to join my Patreon are 700. So it's $5 a month. I offer 3 videos a week. One video is me telling brand new jokes to a camera for about 7 minutes. One video is a sketch that I perform by myself, playing multiple characters. And one is an interview, like you're doing, with actors who should be interviewed that you recognize. For example, I just talked to David Krumholtz from Coen Brothers movies, and I just talked to Fred Stoller, who's the guy who gets punched in the face in Dumb and Dumber, and then I talked to Mike Starr, who's in Goodfellas. He plays the character Frenchie in Goodfellas, and Mackenzie Aston, who's the son of John Aston, the brother of Samwise Gamgee, Sean Aston. So I talked to all these actors I know: AJ Langer, Vicki Lewis from News Radio. Yeah,
people that are really good that you don't get to really talk about the process, and people that are really interesting that you don't normally get to hear.
The point is that I'm very fascinated to know. Like, there's a guy named Eric Palladino. He has a great death scene in the movie U-571, the Matthew McConaughey, Harvey Keitel. He's got a great death scene there. I met him on an airplane, and we became friends. And I asked him, "Do you want to do the interview?" And we talk about. He tells these great stories about Harvey Keitel. And it's like, these are actors we never get to hear from because they're not the lead. And I want to know their stories. What movies do they like? And so that's also on my Patreon. So $5 a month, you get 3 videos a week. One is an interview, one is sketch comedy, and one is jokes. And I really could use it because I got MS, and I think next year I'm going to have to buy my own health insurance. Because how are you going to make 25 grand as an actor right now when there's no shows?
That's it. I can't believe you. I'm shocked. My brain is still thinking about that they raised it. Screen Actors Guild raised it in a year of COVID where none of their people are working. None of them.
I think the reason is, my mother explained it, because actors are still going in for healthcare. And now, so their SAG is spending more money than they are making.
Yeah.
So in other words, we're not paying. So I don't know. Either way, it sucks. Patreon is patreon.com/Brian Scolaro, or the book would help out. Anything like that. Because I literally, who are we going to be delivering to? We're all going to be delivering to each other.
Yeah, we're all doing DoorDash, and we pass each other on the street. One's going to one's house and one's going to the other. That's right. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that, and I hope that you can post this too, and get some people to listen to it, and I will as well. And if you can help, if you can do it, let's do it, guys. This is all about a time of, helping each other, because we are all at a boiling point. Everybody is absolutely ready to just bust out. We're all over it. We need to kind of focus it back in and really think about what the important things are.
You could also cancel. You don't like it? Cancel. I think it's fucking interesting,
I do too. So Patreon, and then the book, How to Punch a Monkey, which is really funny. Yeah. Yep. You know what it kind of reminded me of? It was so stream of conscious. I thought that it was, it almost read like, how I've known comedians that, like, on a napkin, they write down potential jokes or potential one-liners. And that's kind of what it read like, a lot of it. Very funny. You got it in different sections, little scripts.
It took a lot of organizing. It took a lot of organizing and finding everything. But now I have, when I'm going to write the next book, I'm having it better planned. Every time I have a thought, I put it in my act, and then I move it over to the book. I put it in the little book file. So the next time it won't be so fucking hard to organize,
Yeah,
There's a lot of napkins.
Visualized when I was reading, I went, he has got little pieces of paper, little napkins. They're all over the place, and he had to put them into these categories.
It was fun. I had a great time.
You know what? It is really funny. Have you ever, I wanted to ask you while I was reading this, because I was actually going to ask you, let's read one of those skits. It was the woman with the bread or something.
The toast. I love that skit. I love that. I did that skit with a girl. She's got a smooth silk voice, and it was fucking hilarious. She was so good in it. It's a great skit where he thinks he's going to interview somebody on police corruption, and instead he gets a woman from the Institute of Toast. He's like, toast? She's like, yeah, it's a foundation for studying toast. And she keeps wanting to talk about toast, and he's like, no. And it's just very funny, because it just goes on and on. But my favorite part is the ending.
The ending.
She just goes, let's stop. She goes, let's say you're walking down the street, and a monkey comes out of nowhere and puts his penis in your vagina. What do you do? And I go, I guess I'd go to the hospital and get some shots. She goes, all right, then I should go. Take care. And she
Well, I read that and I thought, oh my God, I had no idea it was going to be that last line. I went, well, that went, a total way.
You got to come up with an ending.
But I could hear it. I thought, God, I wonder if you'd read this. If you'd read them out loud, if you'd ever written these and read them out loud with people.
Yeah, that one was acted out. Yeah.
You ought to think about doing for your Patreon people, recording these with somebody on Zoom. All of your skits are on Zoom? Or not on Zoom?
Not all of them, but I do one a week, and that one is already on Zoom.
Right, but
that one is already on Patreon.
Yeah, so any of the extra ones though would be good that you haven't done.
I just did one today. I just did one today from the book, the skit where the talk show host, keeps getting the cards mixed up, and he thinks the guest eats wood, and the guy's like, I don't eat wood. He's like, I'm an author, and he thinks he's a gay crocodile. He's like, no. He's like, I'm an author. Is that author with an A or with a Gaycrocodile? He's like, hey. It's just stupid, but I really like stupid humor. I love stupid humor when it's done realistically. Like Monty Python was great at that, to have a straight man confused. I love it. And Marx Brothers, I grew up with anarchy, and I love the anarchist humor of
it is unbelievable. You said eat wood, like my husband says, people have pica, they eat wood or eat really strange things, Now, let me ask you this. Favorite, you probably don't want to do this. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Favorite male comedian, favorite female comedian?
Alive or dead?
Doesn't matter.
George Carlin.
Okay.
Favorite male comedian by far.
Get that answer a lot.
He's by far. He became a second father to me.
Did he?
When I discovered him in 5th grade, he taught me things that my parents didn't teach me.
Okay.
About being an individual. He's a great joke. I love individuals. I hate groups. Because pretty soon you're all wearing the same hats. But really what he's saying is, group thoughts are stupid. Individual thoughts are great.
Right.
So I learned a lot from him, questioning religion and authority.
Right.
And female comedian, that's a tough one because I love Wendy Liebman.
Yes.
Wendy Liebman, she's like, I got a confidence problem. Like when I go to a department store, when I complain, I ask for the assistant manager. It's a stupid one-liners,
Sounds very New York. It sounds very New York.
I love certain, like Sarah Silverman has a great joke, which she goes, my vagina smells like a peach. That's what my friend said. It smells like a peach. Actually, no, a peach tree. No, a peach tree dish. And I love old Joan Rivers.
Oh, she's one of my favorites. I like Kathy Griffin. I like Joan Rivers.
I like Ellen DeGeneres' old stuff, her first or 2 HBO specials where she would ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble. when she first came on the scene in Young Comedian Special, she would ramble.
Yeah.
With an ongoing sense. And I loved all that.
Yeah,
I can't pick a favorite for them, you know.
Louis Black and Kathleen Madigan. I mentioned them when I talked to Kathleen. Oh my God, I don't know what I would pay to see her. She is so funny. And I hear, whenever I interview you guys, I always listen to you on the, on the radio, Sirius Radio. And that was one of the first times that I'd heard you on the radio was one of those. It was really great, raw dog and really funny.
Oh, thanks. Problem with stand-up comedy is very age-centric. Mm-hmm. So Dana Gould, who was a writer on The Simpsons, he has a great Don Knotts impression. He stopped. He said, he goes, I'm 55, or in Comedy Central terms, deceased.
Yes.
Like there are great female comedians that you will never know, because in the age of the internet, they're already in their 40s.
Right.
Bernadette Pauling, Laurie Kilmartin. You go look up Laurie Kilmartin on Twitter, you will laugh hysterically. These are comedians who should be known, but they're not, because Netflix only wants young comedians or celebrities. Right. And it's annoying. It's annoying because the older you get, the better you get. So how about fucking
Absolutely. It is unbelievable. Now, I ask one more question. I asked Jeff, and then we'll stop. I'm talking longer than I wanted or thought. I thought we would. No. I mean, I'm fine. I'm loving it, but I don't want to take your time. I know you're a busy man. So you got, or either you need another.
No, I don't have to do anything until 11:30 my time.
Oh wow. Well, we could go on forever. So I interviewed Jeff Caldwell last week, and there was I sent him 3 clips. It was John Cleese talking to Bill Maher about political correctness. It was Jerry Seinfeld talking to Seth Meyers about political correctness. And there was one more, Mel Brooks, who I adore, talking about the death of comedy is political correctness. Now, in reading your book, it's pretty obvious that you really don't. Now, Jeff is like, there's certain things that shouldn't be discussed, or we shouldn't go out just to try to hurt somebody's feelings. Jerry Seinfeld said that, you know what, these days there's just this PC thing out there, and he was referring to the audience, that just kind of gives me the creeps. And Seth Meyers said, yeah, because you throw it out there, you already know before you even get home, the tweets are out there, you're going to have to apologize, the next day. Apologies. Talk to me about what Brian Scolaro thinks about political correctness and comedy today.
Listen, I think what they're saying has a point.
I do too.
But when people, there's a lot of aspects to it. Patrice O'Neill, who's one of my favorite comics, said, just because it offends you doesn't mean you own that tragedy. You don't own 9/11. You don't own sexism. You don't own rape. You don't own AIDS. Like, you can't tell us not to talk about something because you don't own it. So if it happens to you and it offends you, then I understand, and I'm sorry you got offended and didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Okay.
But you don't own it, and you can't tell me what to talk about and can't talk about it. Right. So I look at it 2 ways. I see, one sad story is I had a joke. I worked with mentally handicapped people for 20 years.
Oh, I think I know.
20 years. But I lived it, And so I had a joke. I talked about it on Mark Maron's WTF podcast that I used to work with.
Love that.
So a mentally retarded adult came to one of my shows because he knew I worked with mentally retarded people. Now, in my joke, I have a joke. In my act, I have a joke about my neighbors arguing. And because of the wall, the argument sounds like, And I go, and it turns out they were retarded. Now, it gets a laugh. It gets a laugh every time. But, and the mentally challenged adult wasn't offended, but his parents were.
Yep.
And they made him leave my show. Now, there's a lot of aspects to it. Should I have made a joke like that? That's one aspect. He wasn't offended. That's the second aspect. His parents, who were offended, not him. So he didn't have Down syndrome. He was in full capability. He had cerebral palsy. So his brain was fine.
Sure. Oh, yeah. So, cerebral palsy. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was, there's a lot of ways to look at it, and there's no clear cut answer.
Yeah.
It's like Roe versus Wade. There's no specific answer.
Right.
Like everyone has points. So who are we to decide what we can and can't talk about? Who are we to decide? It's just
it's a very fine line. I was telling Jeff, this generation just seems to me, Brian, to be so serious. like that you, before you even make the joke, they're going, ooh, you know, you can't talk about this. Ooh, you know, like Seth Meyers said, what did he say about, Caitlyn Jenner? He's like, okay, look, so you don't put yourself out there and think that you're not free game, you know, at some point. He said, I'm not going to talk about it right now, but maybe down the line I will, because anything out there is kind of fair game. And people, and John Cleese said that everybody is so thin-skinned that you just want to go, you know, not everybody is that sensitive. Why don't we all just toughen up, get a thicker skin, and just laugh at ourselves, you know, self-deprecating humor, and laugh at ourselves, because if we're so serious, good God, and that was what Mel Brooks was saying, the death of comedy. If we all take ourselves so seriously, we can't just look at ourselves and go, oh, funny. You know.
The thing is that I worked with mentally challenged people for 20 years. And so, like, that is all thrown out the window because I said the word retarded in a joke. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of aspects to it. And I don't try to judge. For example, somebody on Twitter posted a footage of 20 naked women standing in the street screaming. And I wrote as a joke, I can't even jerk off. I can't even jerk off to this because they were screaming angrily, like, ah! And everyone laughed except for one guy started attacking me. And I was like, so you're going to make a judgment off of 5 words. You're going to make an entire judgment about me in 5 words. And he was like, and then he's like, well, shouldn't your comedy evolve? And then Colin Quinn said in a great special on Netflix.
Colin Quinn, love him.
Red State, Blue State is genius. He says, well, that's why I got into comedy, to goose step along with modern society. You know, like it's true. You know what I mean?
He's
like
very New York, and he is so funny.
The idea is to think differently, not think the same as everybody else. You're supposed to think differently. So if you limit that, then you don't have a comedian anymore. You have a lecture speaker.
That's right. And I think that's what Mel Brooks's point was, is that, you know, you cannot, and talk about goose stepping. I mean, he was a Jewish man making fun of Hitler. I mean, found humor in Hitler, springtime for Hitler. You know,
and that, usually those people who yell at you, when you fight back, they say, okay, boomer, even though I'm Generation X, they say, okay, boomer. I'm like, okay, so you can be ageist, sexist, racist, but I can't.
I can't. They tend to be the professionally offended. And you go, professionally offended people really start to bother me, and they are such a fucking drag.
No, that's why I like acting more than stand-up now. It's one
yes.
of the many reasons. Yeah,
let the writer get in trouble. I'm just the actor. You know what I mean?
The actor gets in trouble. The actor always gets in trouble. The writer always goes on to another show, and the actor has to pay the punishment.
And if the show's really good, the director doesn't get mentioned. But if the show is really bad, the director's the first one to be taking it in the butt, you know? So now, guys, Patreon, and also How to Punch a Monkey that came out in May. You can buy it on Amazon with Mr. Lovely Brian Scolaro, so talented. And so my last question that I always ask, Brian, if you were not Mr. Funny Man, if you were not so wonderful and you didn't realize that you wanted to be the lead, right? Not be the blind guy in your school play, because you wanted to be the lead and you realized you were funny. Right. What do you think you might have done as a career? Did anything ever enter your mind before that, or maybe during the career when it was down? What should I be doing? What would I be good at?
Well, you're talking about acting, or you're talking about outside of acting?
I'm talking about, well, if there isn't anything and it's just acting, then that's good. But usually I say is, if you could think of yourself in any other career, or if you thought about another career, where could you see yourself if you didn't have this wonderful quick wit and all of that?
Well, you're very sweet, first of all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To be honest, I always said taxi driver. I always see, I see me driving by myself. I see me working for myself. And me just being out there. That's what I see. That's why it's like, because I've tried the other stuff and I don't like them. Right. You know, I tried teaching, don't like it. You know, I tried doing other things that don't like it.
Right.
You know, I think a job like taxi driver that's different location all the time would be fine.
There you go. You've got a phone call. I guess we should call it quits.
Yeah, no, but I'm getting
Is it spam?
Let's find out. Hello?
Dear customer, your account will be debited with $399.99 for auto renewal of your computer services.
Oh, really? What computer do I own?
If you wish to renew your subscription, press 1.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Press 2.
And I feel bad for old people who fall for this.
Oh my
I've gotten that
God.
call 8 times the past week. 8 times.
And they want you to call back, or they want you to transfer to so they can
They
take
don't
the
even
debit
know.
card.
I bought this computer at a Best Buy. Nobody's calling me.
Oh my God, that's awful. So, I was going to say, that was actually pretty daring that you let that play. Because I don't know if I would have been daring. I don't know who would have been calling me asking.
Well, there's one of two things. It was Los Angeles, so either it was that number or it was a job offer. And
that sounded like a home phone, Brian. That wasn't a cell phone. Was that a home phone?
Yeah, because I'm an adult, and I know that cell phones suck sometimes, so I use home phone.
Oh my God. I got one too.
They make fun of it all the time, but it's like when the world ends, who's going to be able to call 911? Me.
Right, me. And you don't need, well, you do need electricity to be able to, keep this plugged in, the battery plugged in, but they're still great. I have it too, the landline, so I have one too. But I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so glad that Jeff sent me your way.
About the craft of acting, and
yeah, you did.
I don't feel we really got into that.
Okay, well, is there anything you want to add? Because I think we did. We talked about getting the script, talking about going on set, how to handle stuff.
Okay.
Multi-camera versus single camera. We talked about your acting versus stand-up, which you prefer and why.
Just want to make sure you're happy.
Anytime I see you on screen or listen, I'm happy.
Okay,
I'm
good.
happy.
I have plenty of things to eat. I'm fine. By the way.
Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles has marshmallows now.
No.
So it's good. If you go to the supermarket and you see Fruity Pebbles, just look above it and you'll probably see Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows. It's in a blue box, not a red box. It's fucking great.
And that is awesome. And you walked this morning so you can have it. My favorite cereal was Lucky Charms, and it was because of the marshmallows.
Yeah.
The marshmallows in candy and Frankenberry. But listen.
Frankenberry tastes like styrofoam.
It was Count Chocula was more my style,
Oh, okay.
But anyway,
well, you had a great day. It was very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining my Patreon. Thank you for getting a book.
Absolutely. I was looking for you, and take care. And guys, check out brianscolaro.com. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, I think that about does it for this week's podcast. I can't thank you enough for listening. Remember, you can find me on Facebook under ACT and on Instagram and Twitter under ActingPod. Or you can visit my website at www.dawnwestbrook.com and ask questions, give suggestions, and feedback. But for now, as W.C. Fields once said, a man's got to believe in something. So, my noble artist and my happy troop of theater trolls, I do believe I shall have another drink. May the footlights burn bright and your interactions, both on stage and off, be rewarding. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dawn Westbrook, your host, and this is ACT. This week's podcast is sponsored by the Bunker Hill Newell Playwrights Fund.